Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the JP Peterson Show here on a Tuesday. Those of you familiar with the show will notice I am not JP Peterson. I am much better looking than JP Peterson. JP Peterson, as you guys know, as he mentioned yesterday, is on vacation. He's probably on an airplane headed to Breckenridge, Colorado with his lovely family. So instead, you guys get the IndCARTim takeover on a Tuesday, and you may get it on Friday too. I don't even know what his plans were for Friday, but I guess we'll find out the hard way. Joining me today, you guys may remember this guy. He's been on the JP Peterson Show numerous times, giving his golf picks, is PGA of America member, Mr. John Gerber. Hello, Johnny. How are you today?
Good morning, buddy. How are you? Boy, it's a big risk him putting us both on here on his show at the same time, boy. So this is going to be one of the best shows ever, or it could be the last show, JP. So I'm going to apologize, or you can give me a hug after this show. I'm sure we'll be getting a text to see how it is. But yeah, great to be on. Doing a show with you certainly is always fun as we do our golf show a few times a week.
Yeah, so those that don't know, Johnny and I can be heard together a couple times a week on the From the Rough Golf Podcast, where we give our previews and recaps of each tournament every week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Central Time on FanStream Sports, on FanStreamSports.com, on the app, YouTube, everywhere you get FanStream Sports content. We're out there having a good time. So we're taking our foray here. By the way, at JP's request, so this was his idea, you guys. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to do as much Tampa stuff as we can, but we've got some NCAA tournament talk. We're going to have Scott Hamilton on, formerly of ESPN, currently with SiriusXM. Do a little tournament talk. Chris Lugo of Bay Area Modern Medical Center will come on a little bit later. And, of course, we cannot have a Tuesday show without PewterReport.com's Scott Reynolds. He'll be popping on here in the first hour with us. We'll talk a little bit of Bucs draft priorities. And I'm going to ask him, and this is something you guys as Bucs fans may be wondering, is how hot is the Todd Bowles seat? If things go horribly wrong for him as the season starts out, I'm very curious how short that leash is going to be for the Glazers to make a decision on pulling the plug on his tenure there in Tampa Bay, because I've never been high on Todd Bowles. He was here in Dallas for a couple of years as a secondaries coach. It just seemed to be like clueless a little bit. I know he's grown. He's a lot older now. And we know what he did with the team last year. There's certainly, you can't deny that. But based on other things that we saw early and midway through the season with the Bucs last year, I don't know how hot that seat's going to be and how tolerant they will be if things go south early in the season. Johnny, you're a little bit familiar with Bucs football. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, I think you hit it perfect. Todd Bowles, to me, always seems like a guy that was a better defensive coordinator. It seems the guys really like to play for him. I know he's a likable guy. That's the good thing. I think that's probably why his tenure there has been a little bit longer than possibly it should have been. But, that's a great question. I mean, the signing of getting Baker Mayfield and Evans contracts done, so you got your key pieces already done. So there's no really excuses. I think Atlanta is going to be a little bit better, certainly with the addition of the Kirk Cousins, and I think they have weapons. But if you look at the other two teams in the division, I mean the Saints and the Carolina Panthers, you almost have to think that those are wins that are going to be pretty easy on the schedule for them. So, yeah, I mean, getting those guys locked down was a key, and keeping those guys healthy, keeping Baker Mayfield healthy, I think is also going to be a key for the Tampa Bay Bucs also.
Yeah, and, you've got Atlanta in the division, and they've just gotten Kirk Cousins, the overpriced journeyman quarterback who has one playoff win and is, 12 seasons in the NFL. So that – I know a lot of Bucs fans. JP's mentioned he's a little bit scared of that scenario with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta because they do have a good team around them. They kind of are just missing the quarterback piece. I'm not so sure they found their quarterback piece. I'll be honest. I'm not a Kirk Cousins hater. I just think he is what he is. He's an
upgrade. He's an upgrade from what they had. So, if that's anything that's a positive, he's certainly, because what they had before, I mean, your second, third string quarterbacks trying to lead an offense that has great weapons with London and the running backs and everything that they have. Their key pieces are fantastic in Atlanta, and there's high expectations on them too, coming in to the season with all those weapons that they have. And I really think that division is for the taking, in probably a 2-team race between Tampa and Atlanta.
Yeah, so we're going to get into some Bucs talk here throughout the show. Obviously, we're going to get into some golf talk. The PGA Tour is in San Antonio at TPC San Antonio. We're going to get into a little bit of that, and we are just a week away from the Masters, the first major of the season. So if time permits in the second hour, we'll get into a little bit of Masters talk, because that's kind of what Johnny and I do, right? I mean, we talk about lots of stuff, but golf is our passion. Golf is where we are. And we will welcome all of the comments. I'll probably be a little more comment friendly than JP is, because he's way more long-winded than I am. So I will always make sure to make room for the comments, you guys. Nathan's already chimed in. He said hello. He had a comment on Todd Bowles' seat being cooled down a bit. Could it get hot? Yes, just depends on how fast the losses pile up and how bad the losses are. Close games, slow cooker, burnouts, deep fry fast. Absolutely, Nathan, I'd agree 100%. So we'll be reading the comments as we go throughout the day here with you guys. Appreciate y'all tuning in. 102.5 HD2 The Strike, and right here on FanStream Sports. Johnny, JP tweeted out, as I tweeted out the takeover of the show last night that we we're going to be on, he retweeted it with a little comment that said, you guys may get to hear the JP Memphis-Dallas story, which is a good one, because I'd kind of forgotten about it.
I tried to forget about it. Trust me.
It was a funny day for us as we were flying JP into Dallas to talk some business with the merger between DSP Media and FanStream Sports before we were all on the same team. He was flying out to check out the Dallas studio and the operations that we had, and we were doing some shows from the studio here that week. He was here the few days he was here, and of course going out doing a little bit of drinking and getting to know each other and things like that. So, JP travels quite a bit, and I would really think that he was familiar with the way airlines work and layovers and how to know where to get off of the plane and when to leave the airport. But that wasn't the case with JP, as he was trying to make his way from Tampa to DFW International here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And Johnny gets a call about, 2 hours before he's supposed to be in Dallas, right? And he
flew into Love. We got him into Love.
He
was going to Love. Yeah.
So you get a call, because you and me are at the studio waiting for you to go pick him up. And we get a call. You get a call 2 hours before he's supposed to be here. He's like, okay, so, hey, I'm here. And we looked at each other like, what's happening?
Yeah, it was so funny. So I booked this ticket, and JP the Traveler, we're all traveling. The JP the Traveler he is. So I sent him all his information, his itinerary, book his ticket on Southwest. It's easy to fly from Tampa to I thought it was easy to fly from Tampa to Love Field in Dallas. So we're sitting at the studio, and we're like, when's JP coming in? I saw he has a couple hours before he comes in. So we're sitting at the studio, and I get a text from him. He's like, I just got here. I was like, what do you mean you just got here? Did you take an earlier flight or what's up? He's like, no, I'm here. So I'm like, man. So I jump in the car, and Love Field is only, 15, 20 minutes from the studio max. I said, well, hold on. I'll zip down, man. I'm at the studio. We're recording. So I get there, and I'm going through the pickup area. And I'm sending him in a text. I'm like, where are you at? He's like, I'm right here on gate or entrance 14. I'm like, entrance 14? Dallas only has eight places that you go out for baggage claim. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm right here. I got everything. I was like, what are you talking about? So I pull up and get out, and I'm looking, and I go inside the gate, or I go inside the pickup. I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm right here. And he says he's like, are you blind? I'm right here. I said, what? I said, there's no way. So he looks, I said, man, you need to go look around. He's in Memphis.
He had a layover in Memphis and thought he was in Dallas.
He got off the plane in Memphis and got out. So he had a layover. So he went, I booked it from Memphis to Dallas. It was just whatever price. So couldn't get a flight. I don't remember what it was. So he gets off the plane in Memphis, and he gets his luggage. He had a carry-on, so he didn't have anything. So he goes, I said, look around. Where are you? He's like, well, the mural in here says M. I'm like, what do you mean M? He goes, holy crap, I'm in Memphis. I was like, Memphis? I said, yeah, you had a layover in Memphis. He's like, oh man, I'm in big trouble because he got off the plane.
Yeah, got his luggage and everything, right?
So he's like, man, I'll call you back. I was like, well, I hope you can get back on that plane because I don't know what's going to happen here. You're supposed to fly back out in like 15, 20 minutes. So he rushes, gets back through all of, thank goodness Memphis wasn't busy or it's not a really big airport. So he has to go through all the security. Gets back on the airplane. Luckily, just they close the gates. He can sugarcoat you and get you back on. He can talk you into a lot of things, JP. So he gets back on the plane. He says, I'm on the plane. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. So
Is it the right plane?
I said, is it the right one? He said, yes, I think so. So I don't hear anything from him for another hour. It's like an hour flight from Memphis. It's nothing to Dallas. So he gets there. He texts me. He said, I'm here. I said, are you sure you are here? And I said, take a picture of where you're at in the airport so I know exactly where you are at. So I finally get there. Oh, what a story. It was chaotic. Thank goodness he didn't have luggage because then he'd have probably been cussing people out in terms of, hey, where's my luggage and stuff like that through the baggage claim. So it was a great story. That was our first interaction kind of being together for 3 days. That was a Tampa-Dallas game. That was our first game.
Oh, that's right. The Cowboys-Buccaneers game.
Yeah, you guys did some great play-by-play stuff, and he went to the game in the Dallas game. So that was our first interaction, JP. Ever since then, it's been kind of smooth, I think. Kind of smooth. So
it's because he hadn't had to fly back to Dallas yet.
Right. Well, I was praying that his flight going back, thank God it was one way, and he only had to get on one plane. So it was
it was direct. So, no layovers.
That was our interaction, business interaction.
So then we have a huge dry erase board in our studio in the hallway that we write announcements and stuff and new shows coming up, and just if we have dignitaries that roll through the studio, we'll write welcome messages to them. So I wrote while they were coming back, I wrote on the board, "Welcome to Memphis, JP," and just huge letters on the dry erase board. He got a big kick out of that, and that's been kind of the running joke. And that was 2 years ago.
2.5 years ago. Well, it'll be 3 years, and I guess it'll be 3 years in fall.
Probably. That's crazy to think about.
I know.
But poor JP and his directionally challenged flight. We hope that he makes it to Breckenridge, right?
And I won't book another flight for him. He's like, I never have anybody else book my flights. Like it was my fault. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, how dare you pay for his flight?
Yeah.
What the heck? They'll teach you. Yeah. We are going to get to a little bit of Rays Rangers, as coincidentally the world champion Johnny Texas Rangers are playing the Tampa Bay Rays out there in Tampa at the Trop. Had their first game last night. But before we get to Rays Rangers talk, we had a momentous event in the world of baseball last night. No, it's not the Astros' first win of the season because nobody cares about the Disastros. But we did have a no-hitter in that game, and kind of a notable no-hitter because of who threw it in just his eighth start. Ronel Blanco comes in because of some pretty serious injuries to the pitching rotation for Houston. They were forced to dig deep in the well to get Ronel Blanco to come in against Toronto. And they wore those ridiculous Space City uniforms that just look, everything that the Disastros do is ridiculous, and I hate all of it. For you, let's see, I'm trying to think of a way to compare it for Rays fans. I guess like the Yankees. For you guys, a division rival?
Yeah, maybe.
You guys maybe we'll
Marlins, maybe?
Yeah, maybe we'll ask you guys in Tampa, give us a comment what your most hated Rays rival is. In division or out, I guess. I don't know where the Marlins are rival. They're in the other league. I mean, I don't know. But you guys comment. But I know even though they're not in the division, I hate the Yankees because of what they've done to the Rangers in the playoffs before. And they're just the evil empire, right? They're the Yankees. They win everything. They have all the money, so you kind of have to hate them. But the no-hitter was momentous. It's the franchise's 17th no-hitter. And let's see, there was some other stuff here because apparently the Disastros have pitched. I'm trying to see what the stat was. Crap, was probably in another article, but like they've pitched like something ridiculous, like 4 of the last 7 no-hitters in the league have come from the Astros.
17 of the last 70 no-hitters has been pitched by the Astros, and this is the earliest no-hitter in Major League Baseball history that someone's pitched 5 games into the season,
Right.
6 games in for some people. So that's the earliest anyone's ever thrown a no-hitter. So their last 17 no-hitters, the last 17 out of 70 no-hitters has been pitched by the cheating Astros.
I wonder if they had any trash cans out there.
Yeah, but yeah, it's more impressive, like you said. I mean, having his eighth major league start, he throws a no hitter. That's pretty impressive. And as much as people, some of the stuff that went on with the Astros for sure is World Series and the cheating scandal and stuff like that. They've certainly been able to stockpile some talent and keep some talent around there and pay those, especially their pitching staff. And it seems like the pitching staff that's coming up, they always continue to reload, and they're developing some really good pitchers and things like that. So, yeah, do I want to say good for the Astros? Yeah, probably not, but good for him. Good for the pitcher that's in his 8th start pitching no hitter.
So yeah, that's notable here in the world of baseball. And I don't know, are the Astros the most hated team in baseball, like from every fan base? Or
probably the Yankees still. Yeah, it's probably certainly the Yankees still. I would think so. I mean, I think I think maybe a little bit for different reasons. The Astros are probably, unlike just because of the cheating scandal, but the Yankees more so of the past history and maybe a little bit of jealousy and things like that. But as a baseball fan as I am, I certainly love the Yankees Red Sox rivalry. And,
Sure.
Some of those rivalries in baseball, and, I don't know who would be considered the Devil Rays. Maybe the Yankees also, just because of spring training's there for the Devil Rays. That's probably a little bit also too. But I think that the hate or dislike between those two are maybe for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, from a Texas standpoint, obviously all the division rivals, I can't stand any of them. Oakland, Seattle, Houston, the Los Angeles, Anaheim Angels of Disney, Anaheim, Los Angeles Angels, whatever the hell their name is these days.
The Otanis.
He's in LA now, but
yeah,
and then you have the traditional, like you said, Red Sox, Yankee matchups. You've got the Cubs and the Reds, the Cubs and the Cardinals. That's a big one. The Cubs and the Cardinals. Yeah. But obviously LA and the Giants, both having moved to the West Coast in the same year back in 1958 from New York. So there's all those rivalries. And, if I had to pick my biggest Rangers rivalry, it's Houston, since Houston joined the American League back in whatever it was, 2015. They've been the biggest rival for the Rangers, being in the division for sure.
I'm starting to like this little rivalry between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Texas Rangers. It seems like they've been playing a lot, certainly in the postseason. And I really kind of like that little cool rivalry. I know when we're in Dallas together, we always talk about when Tampa's in town, we want to go to a game. So I think competitively, they're very balanced towards each other. So I'm starting to really like that little rivalry between the Texas Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah. And they renewed the rivalry last night. The Rangers come away with a victory 9-3. There at Tropicana Field. That pushes the Rays to 2-3 on the season. It's the Rangers' first loss their third win of the season. They lost the season ender or the series ender with the Cubs, went 2-1 against the Cubs, won the opening series here at home, hit the road for the first time against the Rays. They're now 3-1. Astros 1-4. I love that very, very much. We had a notable injury though, as Johnny, I don't know if you saw or not, in the 9th inning. Josh Young, our young third baseman up at the plate, gets hit by a pitch as he's swinging, by the way. Yeah. Wasn't like he just took the pitch. And he broke his wrist, which is an injury he dealt with last season, and he missed significant time. There is no timetable. Huh?
It's the left wrist too, all right? It's his left wrist. Yeah.
So there's no timetable for his return, but man, if it's anything like last season, they're going to bring him along fairly slowly just because of how important he is. Once again, I think in this game, it was the offense that we have concerns about pitching for sure with the Rays, but it was the offense that failed them. Dane Dunning, the Rangers pitcher, took a one-hitter into the 7th inning. And by the way, Adolis Garcia hit his 100th career home run for the Rangers. That was notable in the game as well. So, we know the history between the Rangers and the Rays, most of the games in the postseason, and then obviously last year in the wild card round. Nathan, all you guys online right now, do you guys consider the Rangers a rival And if so, especially going into last season in the wild card round, how do y'all feel about the Rangers? And how do you feel about that loss? Knowing that the Rangers went on to win it all, their first World Series championship since their inception in 1972, since they moved to Texas from Washington. Just curious, like what the Tampa Bay people think of losing the series. Because, we talk about it all the time. If we lose whatever sport, Cowboys, Stars, Mavericks, when you lose in the playoffs to the eventual champion, right? Whether it's a wild card round, division, whatever, when you lose to the eventual champion, does that take the sting off of losing it because you lost to who went on to win it? I don't think it does. Like, losing is losing. I don't care who it was to. And, I have some friends or some people that listen to the show that'll say, I want them to be out. Whoever beat us, I want them to be out as soon as possible because I don't want them to win it either. Other people are saying, well, it makes me feel a little bit better because we lost to the eventual champions and it wasn't us. What are your thoughts on that, Johnny?
Yeah, I think they have some concerns there with Tampa Bay. I mean, if you look at how they've played so far this year, being 2-5, and you look at the division that they're in, I mean, in the past, they used to have some layup games against Baltimore, but Baltimore with their young talent coming up, I think, as well as they played last year, I think they're going to be, I think they're always going to be a tough out and probably going to win that division if Tampa Bay doesn't get some things, right on track. If you look at the ERA, I think losing Glasgow was a big deal for them. Last year, Tampa Bay averaged their average with ERA was 3.86. This year in 5 games, it's already up to 8. So I think their pitching staff, especially in that division, I think the Yankees are going to be better. I think getting Soto and being able to create some more runs, and certainly the Red Sox aren't nearly going to be as bad as they were last year. And Toronto's always got a lot of firepower. So with the Rays losing Glasgow, and like I said, their ERA this year after 5 games, I know it's a short sample size, is 8 compared to 3.86 last year. And with the firepower that you're going to have in their division with the Red Sox, Baltimore, and the Yankees in Toronto, I think they're in trouble unless they really got to get their pitching, down to it. I mean, having almost a little 4 runs more than you had last year. Like I said, it's an early sample size. I think there's concern there for sure.
Well, and there should be. And, even going into the season, JP talked about the potential issues for Tampa. Offense, I don't think was a major concern. It was a slight concern. Pitching, I think, was the bigger concern that JP mentioned and that probably most of the fans have. But, again, early in the season, they're just 5 games in. They'll have some time to right things and get some guys healthy. And, Tampa does what Tampa does. They sometimes they falter through the regular season. Towards the end of the season, they pick things up a little bit, make a good showing for a postseason run. And then what happens in the postseason happens in the postseason. There's a lot of distractions on that team, man. I tell you what, as an outsider looking in at the Rays, all the distractions they're dealing with, and make no mistake, the Wander Franco thing is still a distraction for them, for the team.
No doubt.
We haven't heard anything coming out. At least we haven't heard, from a national standpoint about the situation with Wander Franco and what's happening and his legal troubles and the things that he's going through and how it affects the team. I'm sure in Tampa, local news is probably all over, and anytime something breaks, they're talking about it. We don't hear that here in Texas, but I guarantee you that's still got to be on the minds of not during games or anything, obviously, but that's still talk around the locker room. I mean, that was their teammate, and he was a good teammate, and he was a good player, maybe their best offensive weapon, and he's gone, and he's probably not coming back.
I mean, you take that run. I mean, you take those runs away from that team. I mean, no matter what, you're taking that run production away from that team. It certainly hurts you. And especially now, Tampa's been kind of one of those teams that they rely on some pretty good analytics. They do their pitching staffs kind of by committee, and they do some kind of interesting things in their pitching staff. And some people think they're crazy when they do it, but obviously it's had their tendency to work. But they've always had like that one big star pitcher that could really kind of hold down the fort. And I think with Glasgow being gone, like I said before, they got to find somebody like that can be their anchor if they're going to be able to kind of platoon those pitchers in there and create that. But when you lose that much, run support that you're going to lose from Franco, where are you going to make it up? And especially if you can't make it up, you can't give up an average of 8 runs in your pitching staff. You just can't do it. You can't make it up, especially in that division where there's a lot of firepower going to those Yankees and those Baltimore and those Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, offense is a at a premium right now across the league, in both leagues, American and national. I mean, look at the Rangers, as powerful as they were last season on offense. They might be better this year on offense with Evan Carter here for the full season. Wyatt Langford's here, and he seems to be better than even Evan Carter was right out of the gate. The Yankees are stronger on offense. The Orioles are better on offense. The Blow Jays are better. Yes, and that's what I call them for all of you out there in Tampa.
You lived up there. You call them, that was your team.
I didn't live in Toronto. I lived in Montreal, sir. I was an Expos fan.
You should have lived in Toronto. It's way better than Montreal.
No, there's nothing in Canada better than Montreal. Maybe Vancouver. Vancouver's really pretty. But you can't beat the French Canadian women. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah, yes, you can. Yes, you certainly can. Trust me, you can.
Especially if they don't speak English. That's probably the best case scenario.
Well,
if I wasn't speaking French, I couldn't make an idiot out of myself, which happened anyway.
Well, you tried to speak French and made an idiot of yourself anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Well, I took 2 years of French in high school because the teacher was cute. I didn't want to take Spanish like a normal person in Texas, a language I could actually use.
Yeah,
because I wanted to. Madame Moore, dude, she was like 25 at the time, right? And I'm 17 going into
she was mature.
My junior year, and she was mature, all right. But of course, never got the time of day from her. And now I know 3 French words. Je m'appelle Tim et toi. Literally all I know from my 2 years of French in high school.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. If I go back up there, I'll relearn some stuff. But tell you what, we're going to take a quick break here. We've got Scott Reynolds coming up on the other side to talk a little bit of Bucs. We're going to ask him kind of the questions that I gave you at the onset here. How hot is Todd Bowles' seat? What are the draft position priorities coming up for the Bucs? And what? I don't know. We're going to have a lot of questions for Scott over at PeterReport.com. That's all coming up. This is the J.P. Peterson Show, brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, by the Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Italiano Insurance, and the Golden Diamond Source. I'm IndCARTim. That is Johnny. We'll be back after this.
JP here for my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation. And that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to Synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or try to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group, because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
With over 34 years of producing small and large events, Extravaganza Productions is truly a Tampa treasure when it comes to creating some of the very best events in Tampa and all across the United States. I've worked with them at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame inductions, the Warrior Games, which was an Olympic-sized event spread across all of Tampa Bay. They are the very best, from small meetings to exceptionally large corporate conferences to galas, fundraisers, sporting events, grand openings, whatever you want. Team EPI has an extremely talented staff of designers and show producers that develop extraordinary events fueled by the visions of their clients. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Welcome back to the JP Peterson Show right here on FanStream Sports and 102.5 HD2. The Strike, talking Tampa Bay Bucs with a couple of Dallas guys. That's interesting. But we've got somebody now who actually knows what he's talking about as we bring in now Mr. Scott Reynolds of pewterreport.com. Scott, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good, guys. How are you?
Well, we're hanging out here trying to make the best that we can out of talking Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft needs.
I can help out with that.
You know what? I thought maybe you could.
Yeah.
But we talked a little bit at the beginning of the show as we're fighting our way through it. And so I've got a couple of questions here, a couple of maybe outsider observations. First of all, I would like to know how hot you think Todd Bowles' seat is going into the season. How short that leash would be if things go south early in the, they start 1-4, something like that. And performance is bad. You're not just losing close games.
Yeah.
What would it take for Bowles to lose his job early in the season, midway through the season?
Yeah. I don't think that any Buccaneer head coach is going to lose their job in the middle of the season. I just don't think the Blazers operate that way. They've had a couple of instances where they could have done that in the past. Raheem Morris started off 4-1 in his final season in 2011. He lost like 10 straight games, right? You could see the downward spiral during that season. The Blazers did nothing to stop it. They fired Raheem at the end of the year. Same thing with Greg Schiano, started off 0-8 in his final season in 2013. And I think limped to 4-12 record, winning 4 out of the last 8 games, too little too late. And he got fired as well. So their MO is that they don't fire coaches in season. They want to I think part of the reason is if they're going to set the table for a new coach, let's get the highest draft pick possible at that point in time. You know what I mean? Like why would you want to stop the bleeding and finish, 6-11 as opposed to 4-12 with some interim head coach down the stretch. So that's kind of been their MO. So I think Bowles is safe for next year. Now, the interesting thing is, and I was not shy about talking about this with you, Tim and JP, about the fact that Bowles probably needed to win that game at Carolina and show some progress. Go to 9-8. Don't take the step back where you're not winning the South and making the playoffs. And I think he took the right step in winning the playoff game against the Eagles, showing the Blazers and the team that he can win in the postseason, because he was 0-1 in the postseason, losing that game to the Cowboys, of all people, your team down there in 2022. So having said all that, you look at Bowles' overall record in Tampa, it's right around 500 now. And I think it is 500, right? So I think he needs to continue to show that he can win with this team, especially with them re-signing a lot of players. They believe in this team. I think the Blazers and Jason Light aren't looking at the 4-7 start. They're looking at winning 6 out of their last 9 games down the stretch, including the playoffs. So I think that's where their focus is. They feel like they have some momentum. At the same time, though, The NFL, baby, it's not for long, right? That's what the NFL stands for, according to Jerry Glanville.
Yep.
And he's right. It's very much a what have you done for me lately league. And you can be like Nick Sirianni, who took the Eagles to the Super Bowl 3 points away from beating the Chiefs, to starting off hot last year, the epic slide. There's people that want Nick Sirianni fired after last year. So it can turn quickly. Having said all that, Todd Monken's still out there. He didn't get hired. I know that's somebody this organization does like. And if they do need to make a change at the end of this year, they're not hoping that's the case. They're hoping that Todd Bowles can stay the captain of the ship and steer it towards towards more playoff wins and ultimately a Super Bowl. But if they have to change captains and chart a different course, I know there's already one guy that's an option for them who is still unhired in terms of being a head coach. He's still the Ravens offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and he goes. Go ahead, Johnny.
Hey, Scott, I think this year with Tampa, I think the expectations this year are a lot higher than they were last year, certainly with the signing of Baker and Evans. With the departures of, Shaq Barrett, who certainly was a player favorite, a team favorite, filling that kind of leadership role and getting rid of Charlton Davis also. Who do you think? I know they re-signed Levante David to a one-year contract. Who do you think can fill that leadership role on top? Does Baker need to step up a little bit more? I know he's very vocal when it comes to that, and it's easy for Baker to do. But losing Shaq Barrett, who do you think could potentially fill that role and keep those expectations that for Tampa, with them being hired, to keep those guys kind of in line?
Yeah, I think Vita Vea is a player that has started to step up, and he's got a C on his chest now the last couple of years. And I think with Shaq being gone up front, it's probably a little bit more onus on Vita Vea to be that defensive line captain and that vocal guy. And he's taken strides towards being that guy. I think he just needs to continue in that path, almost like we saw last year on the offensive side with Tristan Wirfs. And I had conversations with Tristan Wirfs when Ryan Jensen went down with that injury, and Ryan was the captain up front, right? He and Ali Marpet wore the C on the chest. So all of a sudden, like that, the Buccaneers are hit with the sudden retirement of Ali Marpet, still in his prime, coming off a Pro Bowl season, in 2021 and in a Super Bowl in 2020. All of a sudden he retires. He was the captain, but the real vocal leader up front was Ryan Jensen, right? And so all of a sudden he tears his knee up pretty bad on the second day of training camp, out for the season. And I remember talking to Tristan and saying, it's your time to step up now. You're the guy. And he's like, I'm only a second-year player. I'm like, you're the best offensive lineman on this team, probably the best in Tampa Bay history. You're the All-Pro. You're the Pro Bowler. Guys are going to be looking towards you to be that leader. And he's kind of like a reluctant leader, But Tristan really this year kind of stepped up. And I think Vita Vea, kind of that reluctant leader, he's going to have to become more vocal without Shaq Barrett kind of being his lieutenant there. And I think it's still Levante David's defense, right? So you bring back the heart and soul of this defense. He's still the captain. Jordan Whitehead coming in at the safety position is a very vocal guy, even though Winfield has the C on his chest and became a first-time team captain. And, of course, look at what he did last year, the best player in Tampa Bay last year, All-Pro honors and well-deserved. But Jordan Whitehead is more that vocal player. And so I think that he's going to help on defense kind of fill that void without Shaq Barrett there.
Shifting over to the draft, of course, the first priorities this offseason were to get Baker and Mike under contract, which they accomplished. Otherwise, I would think quarterback and wide receiver were going to be two huge priorities in the draft. Now that that's taken care of, you've lost Jensen. What's your thoughts on the biggest priorities here? Just from my vantage point, looking at from the outside in, offensive line, I think probably even defensive line is gonna need some work. What are your thoughts on that? Who they might target?
Well, I mean, football and math don't have a lot in common, but when you pay somebody $33 million to be your quarterback, right? It all kind of starts there. You got to protect him. You got to protect your investment, right? So that makes a lot of sense to get some offensive linemen up front. They still have a hole at left guard. Maybe Sua Opeta from Philadelphia can step in and be a stopgap guy, or maybe he comes in and plays above his abilities. And it is a guy like Shaq Barrett who's kind of a surprise signing, but you can't count on that from happening because that's kind of exception to the rule, not the rule itself. So maybe Suopeta is a better level of depth. We saw Matt Filer come in last year and kind of fail at left guard, didn't really provide the impact that they wanted. And so they tried Aaron Stinney. He was a slight upgrade, right, and run blocking. Pass protection was a little suspect. But both of those guys are gone now. And maybe Suopeta is a better version of Aaron Stinney. In other words, you've raised the floor of your backups, which is always a good thing because you want better depth, but you also want a better starter. So I do think that whether it's Graham Barton in the first round from Duke, if he's still there, Jackson Powers Johnson, who can play guard or center, played center last year at Oregon. Those are some players that could help out on the offensive line. It's a very deep draft when it comes to interior linemen. So you can find some guys, Christian Mahogany from Boston College on day 2, Christian Haynes from UConn, Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. Those are some players that I think can help Tampa Bay on day 2. And we've seen Jason Light really mine day 2 for offensive line talent. Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet in the second round in 2015. Alex Kappa was a third-round pick. Robert Hainsey was a third-round pick. Cody Malk was a second-round pick last year, right? So he's done a good job of finding that talent on an offensive line in rounds 2 and 3. He's only had one first-round offensive lineman. It was a really good one in Tristan Wirfs. But he was picking a little bit higher that last time, I think at 13. Now at 26, you have to kind of let the draft come to you. But don't fret, even if the Bucs don't go offensive line. Maybe they grab an outside linebacker to help replace Shaq Barrett. There will be other options to protect Baker Mayfield and get the running game going on day 2.
I know, hey, Scott, I know it's not a huge priority for Tampa Bay with the re-signing of Baker Mayfield, but, you know, in this league, you always need to have a backup quarterback that's efficient. Are they hanging their hat on Kyle Trask? Or are they going to look maybe for somebody in her 3rd or 4th round to compete with him a little bit? Because, you know, outside looking in, Kyle Trask hasn't shown anything to me that makes him feel like if Baker Mayfield gets hurt, he can take the reins and lead a team that has a lot of potential and has high expectations. If Baker wants to do what he does sometimes and get a little physical and could be potentially injury prone.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think the team is as well. When you look at one of the key factors that has allowed Tampa Bay to go to the playoffs 4 straight years and to win 3 division titles in a row. And the year that they didn't win the division title, they won the Super Bowl. That was in 2020. And the reason why they've had those 4 years of success is Tom Brady started every single game for 3 years. Baker Mayfield started every single game last year. Usually, and Todd Bowles said this at the Combine and the NFL owners meeting, when you lose your quarterback, your ship sinks. That's usually what happens. And that's why there is the importance put on having a good backup. So your season is not, down the tubes. Maybe, you're not making a Super Bowl run, right? If you lose Tom Brady as the Patriots did, but they had Matt Castle as a backup. They still won 11 games. Actually, they missed the playoffs that year, but it's important to not have your entire season just get blown to smithereens because you lose your quarterback. So I'm with you. I don't know that Kyle Trask is the guy because we haven't seen it. And unfortunately for Kyle Trask, there has not been the opportunity where we've seen it because Brady was healthy for 3 years, even in his advanced age. Baker Mayfield was dinged up a couple games last year, still managed to start. So by fate, circumstance, whatever you want to call it, we don't know what Kyle Trask is or is not. And at the same time, greatness shows itself early. I don't know that he is a great player where, I've seen him in training camp or preseason say, wow, this guy, man, they got to find a way to get him on the field. We haven't seen that. But sometimes you don't need that. Brad Johnson wasn't that guy in Tampa, right? Brad Johnson was the point guard. He had Keyshawn Johnson and Joe Jaravicius and Keenan McCardell and Michael Pittman and Mike Allstott out of the backfield and Ken Dilger and Ricky Dudley in a great defense on the other side of the ball. And if you have that, you can be kind of that point guard that can just distribute the ball and feed the rock to the playmakers. And maybe Kyle Trask is more of that guy than he is a special, improvisational playmaker. He's not that shooting guard, right? Maybe Kyle Trask is more the point guard. Whereas Baker Mayfield, you saw what he did against the Eagles in the playoffs. You saw what he did against the Packers in that perfect game. He can be the point guard, but when you need him to drop 30 on an opponent, he can be that shooting guard too. And I think Kyle Trask, we just don't know yet. So yeah, I think there is a chance in this deep quarterback draft class that they can take a quarterback maybe as early as day 2, maybe in the 4th or 5th round. They get a guy to come in and compete with Trask and better the backup situation. Remember, Trask is in a contract year. So,
right.
I just, the jury's still out. Maybe you want to hit the reset button and bring a guy in to compete with Trask. And then if Trask rises to the occasion and beats out the rookie, then maybe you want to re-sign Trask to a 1-year deal. And if Trask ends up number 3 on the depth chart and the rookie's the better guy, then, you move on from Kyle next year.
Trask is entering his 4th year, right? He was in the 21 draft.
Correct.
So at some point, you've got to figure out what you're doing with him. Like you said, he's in a contract year.
Exactly.
And if you still don't know at the end of this year, I mean, is it a wasted draft pick? Because, I mean, he might be good, but you don't know. He might be terrible, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You got to, at some point, you've got to figure out who he is and if he's worth re-signing, because that's going to be a bigger number, right?
Yeah, and it will be. The thing too is not only do the Buccaneers not know about Kyle Trask, nobody else does either, right? So
there's no film on him.
Yeah, you could probably get him back on a cheap 1-year deal, or maybe Kyle says, you know what, I've given 4 years here, and I don't feel like I've had the shot, or maybe I need a career restart elsewhere. Yeah. But if that's the case, he's still going to get a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere, and probably for maybe $2 million, and not a whole bunch. But it does make sense to get another quarterback into the mix. And, I can't fault the logic for doing that, because you had Tom Brady in Tampa. He just won a Super Bowl with you. He's not going to play forever, end up playing 3 years in Tampa. Why not try to get his heir apparent? Why not try to get his successor and have the guy, in this case, Trask, learn under the best ever do it for a couple years? Yeah. The process made sense. The results, not so much, right? This was not Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, right? This was not Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, right? This was not, finding a diamond in the rough at like Brock Purdy. But really what it is it was a situation where they tried. In hindsight, should they have used it on an offensive lineman that could have helped out in 2021, as a rookie? Yeah, sure. You can do all the woulda, shoulda, couldas, but I didn't fault the process, because I've seen what it's like to not have good quarterback play in Tampa. I can rattle off the names, right? Josh Freeman, Jameis Winston wasn't the guy. Never made the playoffs in Tampa despite being here for 5 years. Mike Lennon, Josh McCown. Those players encompass a dark period of Tampa Bay football. When I mean dark, I mean no playoff lights, right? No big lights, not many primetime games, no postseason. From the time John Gruden was the head coach till the time Bruce Arians in his 2nd year here. We're talking about under Raheem Morris. We're talking Greg Schiano, Lovie Smith, Dirk Cutter. No playoffs under any of those coaches, because they didn't have a very good quarterback. And so, yeah, I'm all in favor of, especially with Baker turning 29 on April 14th, which is still young in quarterback age, but still, it's a 3-year deal. Why not try to start that process again? Get a guy. Maybe it's a Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Maybe it's a Michael Pratt from Tulane on 3rd or 4th round, and have him learn from Baker and get in the system. And if there's an injury to Baker, or if Baker is ineffective, or if they look at this down the line and say, Baker, you're going to be 33, and we like what the young kid's doing, we appreciate your 3 years in Tampa, we're going a different direction, then maybe this team can find the Jordan Love to succeed the Aaron Rodgers. Maybe there will be a handoff between Baker and this new quarterback. We'll see.
I know these guys don't definitively like playing on the franchise tag. I know they try to avoid it. But how is the room kind of feeling with Winfield being on that franchise tag? Is it business as usual for him?
Yeah.
I mean, is he the type of guy that it doesn't really matter? Hey, listen, he just wants to play football, and because I know these guys don't like the franchise tag, so I didn't know if that kind of changed his attitude a little bit, or it's just kind of business as usual for him.
Nope. Same thing with Tristan Wirfs, and that's the great thing about Jason Light and this front office and Todd Bowles. You're not just drafting the player, you're drafting the person. And in this day and age, it's with the NIL and what Jason Light calls the 5-star virus, guys that on social media have been coddled and told you're the next big thing, and you're the greatest, whatever. Back in high school, these egos that the kids get, the parents that are searching for the NIL checks and stuff, it's made it harder to find guys that love the game but I can rattle off the Hall of Famers for you in Tampa. Leroy Selman loved the game. Warren Sapp loved the game. Derek Brooks loved the game. Rondé Barber loved the game. John Lynch loved the game. Tony Dungy loved the game, right? I mean, Mike Evans loves the game. Tristan Wirfs loves the game. We're talking, it's easy. If you're a Buccaneer player and you're one of the all-time greats, Levante David included, you love the game of football, right? That's why finding those guys, it's so key. And of course, if you find those guys and they're really, really talented too, that helps.
Yeah.
And I think with Wirfs and Winfield, Wirfs is in his fifth-year option. He doesn't care if he's playing on that. You saw Devin White last year. He was bitching and moaning about it. He wanted out of Tampa. Trade me. I want my contract now. Guess what? Ultimately, Devin White served a purpose. I'm not saying he was a bad draft pick here, but he was not certainly in the caliber of a Levante David or Mike Evans and being a Buck for life, right? They moved on from him pretty quickly once he showed his true colors, which is all about the color green. Winfield knows that a deal is going to get done. He loves playing for Todd Bowles. He loves being in a system that utilizes everything he can do. He's perfectly content. In Winfield's eyes, he's looking at like, I just got a huge raise, $17 million. Oh, you want to pay me $20 million on average? Sure. Let's get to that whenever you're ready. But in the meantime, I just got a huge raise. Same with Tristan Wirfs. He's going to be making $18 million in this fifth-year option. He doesn't care. He knows that an extension's coming, or they'll franchise tag him next year, which will mean even more money for him. So these guys, they play football for the love of the game. The paycheck isn't bad. They don't play for the paycheck.
Yeah. It's fun when you love the game, right? And it's
It
a little
is.
bit easier,
Yeah.
makes the business part of it a little bit easier sometimes. Scott, tell us what's going on at pewterreport.com and at Pewter Report TV this week.
Yeah, well, we've got some exciting guests lined up. This week, we've done on a Pewter Report podcast show, which is live at 4 o'clock, Monday through Thursday on our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. We did an all Bucs mock draft on pewterreport.com yesterday. We have an all Bucs defensive mock draft. These are just hypotheticals. What if the team drafts all offense or all defense? And those are the topics of yesterday's show and today's show, which we talk in all defense. Tomorrow, we've got Greg Allman from Fox Sports. He's going to be talking about the NFC South. Can the Buccaneers defend their title against the Falcons, or is Atlanta now the team to beat? What are the Saints and the Panthers going to do this year? So we're talking NFC South tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then on Thursday, we have Greg Cosell from NFL Films coming on, talking about Baker Mayfield. Can he do it again? Can Baker Mayfield replicate last year's success one more time? On pewterreport.com, a lot of pre-draft coverage and still some free agency news. So make sure you check out pewterreport.com, the mothership, as well as Pewter Report on social media. And you can find us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report.
There he is, Scott Reynolds with pewterreport.com. Scott, as always, appreciate it, buddy. I know you missed JP, and he'll be back next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, there he goes. Scott Reynolds with pewterreport.com. Man,
Great
just
insight.
a wealth
Man,
of information,
awesome.
right, for
Awesome.
the Bucs fans. And I check out anytime I've got Bucs questions, I usually head over to pewterreport.com to get it from Scott and his staff of people over there. Before we head into our break, Johnny, we've got some athletes that are in trouble. Legal trouble, and actually we had a passing. I don't know if you saw this in the NFL. Did you see?
I did.
Vontae Davis passes away at the age of 35. We don't have any other details. Of course, let's see. I remember him more as a Buffalo Bill.
I remember him more Baltimore or Indianapolis Colts.
The Colts,
for me.
yeah, he was.
He was kind of in that staple. And if you watch the Pat McAfee show, I think they were teammates there, so they kind of had a little bit of a little, I don't want to say celebration, but I certainly think that it wasn't foul play. I know he lives down there in South Florida, kind of area where I used to live at in Davie. So I think for a guy like that retired abruptly, really. I mean, he was still kind of maybe in his latter prime of his career, but decided, potentially with some health issues that may have caught up with him. But I certainly don't think there's foul play there when it comes to the passing of him, but I think they're going to come out with some more information there in the next couple of days.
So he was just 35, of course, the younger brother of NFL tight end Vernon Davis.
Right.
So condolences to Vontae and the Davis family and friends and all that. Also, some jurisprudence here as now former Detroit Lions cornerback Cam Sutton has now turned himself into Florida authorities as of Sunday night. 11 days ago, it announced the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office announced it had issued an arrest warrant for him as they released video then on Sunday of him surrendering to authorities. He was charged for domestic battery by strangulation coming from an incident at his house in Lutz, Florida on March 7th. Since March 7th, they had been unable to locate him. It's a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. He was about to enter year 2 of a 3-year deal with the Lions. They have since released him.
Yeah, that's that Tampa area down there in that Hillsborough County,
yeah.
in Lutz over there. And Lutz is kind of just a little north, I believe, northeast of the Tampa. But yeah, that Hillsborough County, they don't mess around when it comes to stuff like that. And it's, I'm pretty sure that they weren't really happy having to wait 11 days before they, tried to get some things done with this guy, and certainly doesn't bode well for him and the Detroit Lions.
And other jurisprudence news, kind of local and up in Kansas City, Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice, who is from the Dallas area, played collegiately here at SMU down at the Hilltop, just north of downtown, is being wanted by police over a traffic incident here in Dallas. I forget what night this was. And it wasn't even like a middle of the night accident. This was like around 6:30 in the evening, down close to downtown. As apparently,
where did they say exactly? I'm sorry, where was he exactly at? I've heard different things. I thought it was on the tollway up north in Frisco, but I could.
Oh no! This was down just north of downtown on 75, like around 75 in Mockingbird, like right down around where SMU is.
Okay.
But witnesses said a Lamborghini and Corvette were racing each other. They eventually crashed, taking out another, I believe, 4 to 5 cars. I forget how many were totally involved. There were no deaths or serious injuries. The occupants of the Lamborghini fled the scene, and the Lamborghini was either leased or owned by Rashee Rice. So they don't know if Rice was driving it. I guarantee you he probably was, speculation on my part. But, he lives here. It's his car. I don't know if he's going to let anybody drive his Lamborghini, a family member or a friend or whatever. But he has not turned himself in, but he has retained counsel that I guess the attorney is going to deal with the police before he turns himself in. So, a lot of and what's funny is the Cowboys for a long time, of course, the Cowboys from the 90s, and then the Bengals of the 2000s or maybe the 90s too were always getting into legal trouble. Michael Irvin's legal battles were well documented in the 90s and stuff. And now it seems like nowadays we hear about so many more things, but it's because of social media and how news travels, and the news cycles are so much quicker now. We hear more about all of that. But man, you hope good things for Cam Sutton and Rashee Rice, and hope that they get their things taken care of. And again, condolences to the Davis family for that. Johnny, let's take another quick break. We've got PGA Tour talk. We've got Scott Hamilton on the other side to talk some NCAA tournament talk. How about Iowa and Caitlin Clark knocking off LSU in the women's side? We'll talk a little bit about that, as well as the NC State run on both sides, women and men's. NC State advancing. We'll get into all of that here on the JP Peterson Show. I'm Tim. That is Johnny. We'll be back in about 4 minutes. Stick with us right here on Fan Stream. So find my buttons. Sports.
This is The Strike. 102.5 WHPT, HD2 Sarasota, Tampa, St. Pete.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group and my man Scott Jeeves, who lives right here and has long been a highly respected member of our community. He's a proud sponsor of the Tampa Riverwalk. Jeeves Law Group is also a proud sponsor of our Grand Central District in St. Pete and has neighborhood events throughout the year. He has an office on Central Avenue in St. Pete and one on South Howard in Tampa. You can't get more local than that. So when you need an attorney, you're going to hire some huge firm that advertises all over the state, or the one that supports your favorite sports show. It's the Jeeves Law Group. We're local, we're trusted, and we get results. For personal injury and personal attention, call us for a free case evaluation. That's 8889-JEEVES. That's 8889-JEEVES.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do
5,000 crunches at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
Did you know Steve Weintraub founded the Gold and Diamond Source over 40 years ago by selling gold-plated sand dollars? And to celebrate, the Gold and Diamond Source is selling gold sand dollar jewelry with the proceeds supporting Julie and Steve Weintraub's foundation, Hands Across the Bay. Yes, in 1984, Steve opened their first location, expanded to 9 stores as far as Atlanta, but now they've consolidated all that inventory under one roof, becoming one of the largest family-owned fine jewelry stores in the country. Julie, of course, joined forces with her husband 20 years ago, and they're going to celebrate by offering up to 40% off select jewelry items. Plus, with gold prices near all-time highs, it's the perfect time to trade in your broken or unworn pieces for something new and stunning. Unlock the value in your jewelry box today at the Gold and Diamond Source. It's always one place, and it's always a great place. The Gold and Diamond Source celebrating their 40th anniversary, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
There we are. Welcome back to the J. Man, this is hard to do, and I got to punch all the buttons and come in and out of break and do the commercials and do the return music.
That's a fast 4 minutes. That's a fast 4 minutes.
I'm working up a sweat over here, man. Woo! Anyway, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show right here on FanStreamSports.com and 102.5 HD2 The Strike. Sitting in for JP, I'm IndCARTim. That is John Gerber. Lots of sports talk for you this morning. We're going to get into the NCAA basketball tournament, both the men's and women's side, with former ESPN host, current SiriusXM host, Scott Hamilton joining us here shortly to get into that. Chris Lugo, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, will join us in about 30 minutes to talk a little bit about men's health, what's happening in that world, how you can get healthy the right way without buying all the snake oil, as he calls it. I love that. And we'll talk maybe if we have time here towards the end of the show, a little bit of a Masters preview. May touch on the Lightning loss to the Red Wings last night as well. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that since they lost. Maybe we'll let the commenters dictate if we talk about Lightning Red Wings or not.
They're still in. Certainly in the good spot for the playoffs. Correct?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I mean, I don't care where they are. I never want to talk about a loss. That's just the way it is. Right. But Johnny, right around the corner here this week, the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. If I can find my notes, where did I put my notes? Here we go. We just finished up a big win from a first-time PGA Tour winner, Steven Jaeger, as we discussed last night on From the Rough here on FanStream Sports. And Scotty Scheffler sort of faltered a little bit there in the final round, missing that 6-foot putt to send it to a playoff. Uncharacteristic of Scotty Scheffler. You mentioned on the show that he's probably a pretty mentally worn down right now, as well as physically, after a pretty rough schedule, right, of tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, I think you saw some mistakes that he certainly doesn't make. I mean, going into after the third or the second round, also, missing 3 putting from 4 feet is super uncharacteristic of him. And then missing that putt on the last hole, you could kind of see his mannerisms a little bit, how he was walking. He looked certainly tired and fatigued for me. But we made a little comment. If that thing is to win the golf tournament, I think he makes it as opposed to going into a playoff. That's just kind of how these guys think sometimes. But, as you said, what is 6th or 7th first-time winner out of 12 events on the PGA Tour this year? It just goes to show how good these guys are. And, we've debated a lot on the show about these designated field events and these shorter field events. And, if you look at some of the winners that's won already this year, they potentially wouldn't get in these events. So I'm certainly a proponent of making the full field events and like they used to be. It's not like the old days where, you had a 144 man field and maybe 60 guys could win. It's not that way anymore for these guys. All these guys are talented, and all these guys, if you got your PGA Tour card, they deserve to be in that mix and getting some of those starts. Because if you're not giving these young guys starts, you're not growing these guys. How are they going to learn? How are they going to compete? And like I said, I'm a big component of letting these guys get some opportunities, just not here and there, and get these shorter fields and not letting them in.
Yeah, and Steven Yeager, the winner, is no stranger to winning. He was one of the winningest Korn Ferry Tour players ever. So it was just a matter of time, and we're kind of surprised it took him 134, 135 tournament starts to get his first victory on the PGA Tour. But this week is the final week before the first major of the season, heading into the Masters. We've got 4 of the world's top 10 players heading to TPC San Antonio this week for the Valero Texas Open. The Aon Swing 5 for the RBC Heritage will also be finalized this week. Less than 10 FedEx Cup points separate numbers 5 through 7 in the Aon Swing 5 standings. It's going to be a dramatic finish for that heading into this week. So the winner, if he's not already in, will also earn an invite to the Masters next week. That has happened 2 of the last 4 Texas Valero Opens where they were not in until they won the tournament right before. So that's kind of cool for these guys.
Corey Connors, and he won back to back. So that was one of the thing. And this is a golf course that fits him great. He's one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour. This field in San Antonio certainly is a better field than it normally is, with Rory playing. As you said, what do we have? 4 of the top 10 players in the world playing this week in San Antonio. And it's a golf course it plays it really predicated on the wind. It's a firm golf course. If it gets windy out there, it could play havoc with these guys. The greens are very difficult when it comes to that. But we talked about this yesterday on the show. Is they're probably next year they're talking about switching events. So San Antonio would be last week, and then Houston would be this week.
Right.
It's prep for these guys. The golf course in Houston plays a little bit more similar to Augusta. Nothing's going to play like Augusta, but it plays a little similar to Augusta, more so than TPC. And they might get a stronger field in both events, actually, because some guys might not play the week before. And these guys are kind of fickle when it comes to that. Some guys play 2 weeks before Augusta, some guys play the week before. So it really depends. But that's kind of the talk that's going on right now, that they're going to switch events due to the fact that Houston, these guys, they think it's a bigger prep for Augusta, Houston, than San Antonio. But certainly a guy, I would expect another guy to win that potentially hasn't won on the PGA Tour to get in Augusta. But I like the field. I really do. A guy, Aberg, however you want to say, OA, whatever you want to say his name, certainly is going to have short odds this week, along with Rory and some of these other guys. But I'm going to look a little further down in the card, pay attention to the weather. And we'll have the picks out tomorrow after or during our show. But we'll have the picks out tomorrow on our social media feeds.
So Rory McIlroy makes his third start here since TPC moved to the event moved to TPC San Antonio. He was runner-up in 2013, missed the cut in 2022. Since his last Valero start, he's won 6 times though around the world. Corey Connors looks to be the first back-to-back winner since Zach Johnson in 08 and 09. He's also looking to join Justin Leonard and Arnold Palmer as the event's only 3-time winners. Jordan Spieth is back, and he's not looking very good. He won, of course, in 2021. Heading into the Masters, he's got some work to do. He's missed his last 2 cuts here on the tour. So a lot of work for Jordan, but we'll be cheering for him as a Texas boy. Colin Morikawa, your guy, is making his tournament debut. He's had a kind of an up and down 2024, which is 1 top 10 finish and 6 starts. My boy, I might have to make the trip down there. My boy Max Homa is going to tee it up at San Antonio for the first time since 2019.
Are you heading down? You should go head down. That's your buddy.
And man, San Antonio is so far.
It's cool though. I like San Antonio.
I know, I like it too. It's just really far. If I go down there, I'm going to eat a lot. Ludwig Oberg. Now you've got me confused on how I should say his name. I know they say Oberg on TV, but with the letter starting with A, it's just hard for me to do that with my little brain. He's playing the Valero Texas Open for the first time as a pro. He missed the cut in 2022 as an amateur. He's gone 7 for 7, Johnny, in cuts made this season and has 3 top 10s, including an 8th place finish at the Players, which was his last tour start. This guy's got the tour on fire, man.
Yeah, but his expectations, I thought he would actually win before now. My expectations for him was a little bit higher kind of going into the year, especially after last year, how hot of a start he came off. And I thought he would carry that in. But even though he hasn't missed a cut and his best finish was 3rd at TPC, that was a little bit of a backdoor cover or backdoor, top 30. Didn't really contend that much. So, I have higher expectations for him, even though that he hasn't missed a cut this year. Maybe this is the week that he is in the Masters. So, there's not a lot of pressure for him to get in, but this is a good golf course for him. It really is. And it's also going to be predicated on the weather. This place usually plays firm and fast. And I think this guy likes to play golf like that, being, playing a lot of golf out in West Texas.
Yeah, it is his major debut next week at the Masters. Reigning Open champion Brian Harmon returns to TPC San Antonio for the first time, also since 2019, alongside Max Homa. His best finish to date here, T16 in 2014. So we've got upwards of 25 players in the field that are also headed to the Masters. And it's going to be the final opportunity for a lot of these guys that aren't already in to qualify for the Masters. So the winner, again, as we mentioned, if he's not already in the Masters, he'll have to make some travel plans very quick.
Taylor Montgomery.
I swear to God, if you put him on your card.
He's going to be on the card. I'm just telling you, he's going to be on the card. This is my guy. I'm telling you, this is my guy. And the 1 week he's not on our betting card is the week he's going to win. So, maybe I make 9 picks every week until he wins. And he's just going to be I don't know but he's going to be on the card. I promise.
Yes, Nathan Elliott. I do know from Bradenton, Florida to San Antonio. That's a lot farther than DFW to San Antonio. I have also made the drive straight through from Dallas, Texas to Fort Lauderdale, straight through without stops. So I'm a little bit familiar with the long drives. By the way, my longest drive on record is straight through from Dallas to Toronto.
Ooh.
I did that about 1997. So that I think, and I've also made a couple of drives from Dallas to Seattle straight through, but I think the Toronto one was the worst. But so big fun expected here from the TPC in San Antonio. We'll make some Masters talk. You guys make sure, again, Johnny and I are on a golf podcast called From the Rough right here on FanStream Sports. Y'all check it out at fanstreamsports.com. We go live every Monday and Wednesday. Monday is our tournament recap from the weekend before. Wednesday is our preview. So tomorrow, 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern on our YouTube channel, fanstreamsports.com, and on the app, we will preview a full preview of the Valero Texas Open. And Johnny will give you his picks, his 3 potential winners, his long shot, his 2 top 10s, and 2 top 20s. And we'll also tweet those out on social media, put it on Instagram and Facebook and all that for you tomorrow morning to give you a little jump on the show. And if you choose to make your bets, you've got plenty of time to look at those and find out wherever you want to do that. Coming up next, we've got Scott Hamilton. If he's still coming on, I don't know. We'll have to see after our conversation off the air before the show to talk a little NCAA tournament talk. I've got an interesting question for him, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, how much you watch college basketball or the the NCAA tournament. I usually don't watch the early rounds unless the Aggies are in it or an SEC school that I'm interested in, or I watch the women's as long as Caitlin Clark's in it because I love watching her play basketball. But have you seen what they do with and I don't know, the first time I've seen it was this year, and it was when Iowa beat LSU, Johnny. So the tradition that was started by the Giants in football of dumping the Gatorade bucket, right? Started with Parcells when the Giants won the Super Bowl back in the 80s. Right. That goes on in football. Guess it goes on in baseball a little bit too. I can't remember seeing it in baseball so much, but apparently they've started this in basketball. But because it's indoor on the hard court, right? You don't want to dump a whole thing of Gatorade. So they fill the Gatorade bucket with confetti.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
What are we doing? Come on. Like, I get the celebration, but is that necessary?
No, probably not.
Just being a grumpy old man here.
Yeah, you are a grumpy old man anyways. Yes, that is true. Both things can be true, right? You are a grumpy old man. On top of that, but they celebrating they don't do it for every game. They're doing it probably for the Elite Eight or getting into the final four. But it's not Norfolk State against Weber State, and they're going to do it in a game like that. No, that's not going to happen. But in something, no offense to Norfolk State or Weber State,
I was going to say, what do you got against them?
But in something like that you have a great accomplishment and you're going to the Final Four, Elite Eight, or you going things like that. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's I didn't want to be the person that cleans it up, but that being said, I think it's just a part of the deal.
Man, I don't know. I don't know why crap like that bothers me, but it does. It just seems unnecessary. We're going to take another quick break. We'll have Scott Hamilton on the other side, hopefully to talk NCAA tournament and make fun of the Gatorade confetti bucket. I am IndCarTim. That is Johnny, subbing for JP Peterson today on the JP Peterson Show. Today's show brought to you by the Geddes Gordon Group, Keller Williams South Tampa, American Mortgage Services, Synovus Bank, and JP's newest / old sponsor, Extravaganza Productions Incorporated. Go check all of them out in the show notes. Wherever you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening to the recorded podcast, we've got them all down there for you. Or you can check them out on JP's homepage at fanstreamsports.com. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, it's a great time to buy a house and get a mortgage with American Mortgage Services. Okay, I got your attention now. But JP, rates are at 8%. That's true. But I spoke with our friend Scott Fitzgerald at AMS Tampa, and this is what smart people are doing. Rates peaked at 8% last month, but they've come down, and AMS recently locked some folks in the high 6s. Prices have also stabilized or dropped in some areas. So if you're going to eventually buy, now is the best time to get the house you want. Fitz will get you the best rate out there, shopping it around to dozens of lenders, and when rates come down in a year or so, and the frenzy begins again, prices go bananas again, you will already have the pick of the litter. Then he will refinance you and keep costs at nearly zero because that's what they do at AMS Tampa. You're back at 4% in the house you wanted while others fight the frenzy. Be smart. Stay one step ahead. Email Fitz at scott@amstampa.com, scott@amstampa.com, or call 813-294-7595. Scott Fitzgerald, NMLS 386-722, American Mortgage Services, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 1020, Tampa, Florida.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance.
JP here for Extravaganza Productions. I've worked with these pros on so many big and small events. They recently did the Kappa Alpha Psi Grand Reunion, the Tampa RV Show Exhibit. They did the Skills Center opening of Tampa Bay. They can do those small events. They do the biggest of events. So if you were thinking about planning a meeting or special event, call the talented staff at Team EPI. They will give you a free creative meeting if you mention the JP Peterson Show. They will provide you with an exceptional experience. Heck, they'll even show you their huge warehouse with great props. Anything you want. They'll do it on time and on budget. You can reach them at their Tampa headquarters at 813-621-4700 or go to extravaganzaproductions.com. Tell them JP sent you.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Welcome back to the JP Peterson Show right here on FanStream Sports and on 102.5 HD2 The Strike. I am IndCARTim subbing for JP Peterson today as he is on a vacation hitting the slopes in Breckenridge. We hope he comes back fully intact with nothing broken.
Do you think he really got there after his normal flight debacles? You think, or do you think his wife and family figured it out for him?
Man, I don't know. I don't know what happens over there with that JP Peterson these days. Appreciate you guys tuning in, staying with us. We've got one of the biggest stories in sports right now, of course, the NCAA tournament, both men and women's, and popping on here now to join us to talk NCAA tournament. How about why do we have an echo here? I don't know what's happening with an echo.
I don't know what's
Scott
happening.
Hamilton.
What's up, Scott?
My blood pressure, my cholesterol, my weight, not my credit score.
What's a credit score?
You're straight cash, homie.
Yeah, that's all I got. See, look, I got my little wad of cash here, and that's my last $20 to my name right there. That doesn't buy you a lot of vodka these days.
Yeah, you got a date tonight?
Yeah. We're going to see. Never mind. Not even going there. I don't do this on JP's show. I'll do it on my show. I'm not doing that on JP's show. I don't want him to yell at us. First of all, Scott, welcome to the show. Appreciate you popping on here with us briefly. Know you're a busy man with all of your sports obligations. First of all, did you do brackets this year or a bracket this season? And if so, how does it look?
I did a bracket for the first time in probably 30 years. I kid you not. I don't like to do brackets because I want to be able to enjoy the games. It's like gambling, man. I mean, it's the same thing. And if you got something on the game, then it gets a little different. I just want to be able to chill. But I will say I had Alabama, Purdue, and UConn in the Final Four.
Really?
Yeah. Now it wasn't the road I expected everybody to take to get there, but I had 3 of those 4. Yeah, and I've got Purdue to win it all.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you. If you had NC State, I'd call you a liar.
Yeah, for sure.
But I believe you had Purdue as a number 1 seed. Like, come on. Now, Alabama, I got to watch a little bit of Alabama in the SEC tournament, of course, against my Aggies, and then, throughout the season in the SEC, covering SEC basketball for Sports Illustrated. But to me, I mean, they surprised me. They showed me something, especially beating North Carolina. They didn't look this good in the regular season. So I don't know what they think.
The pattern with Alabama is and they've had this because Nate Oates is such a math guy, and he's all about 3-pointers or only 2-point shots within a certain range of the basket, analytics and all that. But the Alabama formula has been the same for the last couple of years. Shoot a lot of 3-pointers, and if they're going in, you cannot stop them. And I just felt like, given how this team had been around for a while, same guys, they looked good shooting. I watched them play probably 3 times the last couple of weeks of the regular season. I told people, I'm on the record saying this Alabama team can win it all. And I still believe that. I don't have them picked in my bracket to win it all, but the tempo they run at, the kind of shots they take, and they got the quality of the guys they have taking those shots, I wouldn't be surprised to see them be the national champions.
Scott, you're looking at these 4 teams in this Final Four. You're almost looking at 4 different, completely different types of teams. Purdue likes to pound the ball down inside with Edey. UConn super disciplined. Bama plays around the perimeter, and I think NC State is just trying to play however they can figure out how to play. They're playing with a lot of heart now. When you start thinking about that, you talk about Alabama. Certainly, if they get hot from the perimeter, they can go to the finals. But if you look at a team like UConn and Purdue, isn't that the matchup that kind of most people want to see? You're going to have 2 big guys down in the middle, and you're looking at a UConn team that's super disciplined, and you're looking at a Purdue team that certainly can match up with them down in the middle, and maybe the only team left that can really do that for against UConn.
That would seem to be the matchup. That would seem to be I mean, again, that's what I had in my bracket. But here's the thing, and I'm not gulping the Kool-Aid from Tobacco Road or anything they're sending out from the Triangle. But tell me right now what you envision. And I said this weeks ago as well. DJ Burns against Zach Edey. I mean, look, think back to the 90s. And even Michael Jordan said this. He said, I'm glad the Rockets can't get out of the West because we can't beat them because it's all about matchups. It's all about matchups. They didn't have a solution for Olajuwon. So think of the matchup with Edey and Burns. Edey, a generational talent, but Burns is a different breed of cat, man. He's a problem. He's not as tall, but he's a load, and he's got feet. They called him a point center the other day, and it was absolutely marvelous. Edey's never had to deal with a person like that. And even if he can't stop Edey and Edey can't stop him, what team in the world wouldn't take a situation where you cancel out the best player?
Yeah.
I'm believing in NC State right now to maybe pull off that upset.
I'm more impressed with Burns, how his passing ability is as the big man, as they go inside and out with him, and he's very present on the court. His passing skills as a big man is one of the best I've seen, and how he's able to move with his feet and pass is the most impressive thing for me.
Well, and it's, they mentioned this the other day though. It's one part athleticism, 2 parts intelligence and awareness, because he's able to get the double team and then to automatically know, hey, if there are 2 guys on me, that means there's somebody open or somebody's open. Where am I looking? And he's able to sense where the double team is coming from. Is it coming from up high? Is it coming from down low? Are they coming across from the help side defense? And he's able to compute that so quickly that he knows where to look to distribute the basketball. And the majority of the time, it is the open guy. He delivers a good pass. That's where the athleticism comes into play, and they get a basket.
Yeah.
Scott, is the bigger story on the men's side, is it Alabama or is it NC State making the Final Four?
It's NC State without a question. Or is the bigger story that there's no Kansas or no Kentucky or no Gonzaga? I mean, I know we got Purdue and we got UConn, but the rest of it, man, this whole tournament, and maybe we say this often, this whole tournament has been fantastic. Look at what Clemson did. Clemson, phenomenal run, saved Brad Brownell's job probably. NC State, Kevin Keats was about to get fired. If Virginia if they don't make a basket to beat Virginia or to send it into overtime, we're not having this conversation. Kevin Keats is at the unemployment office right now signing up for government cheese.
I'm sure that would be happening.
Well, you get my point. Don't be smart there with Cash Boy.
What's government assistance? I don't know what that means.
Have you ever had government cheese, by the way?
No.
First of all, that sounds like a country music band. Second of all, I will die on the hill for government cheese. Back in the day, as a guy who grew up in a government trailer on the side of a hill in southern West Virginia, looking into Kentucky, I will eat the government cheese. It's wonderful.
It's not cheese? I'm guessing it's not real cheese, huh?
It's a cheese-like substance.
Kind of like what is it?
Oh, by the way, I forgot McDonald's sponsors this show. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. It's like a quarter pounder.
Hey, Scott, I'm curious with, this is my opinion. I've been following a little bit of the women's basketball just because of the star power that they've really had and the matchups that they had. How much have you really been following the women compared to the men? For my opinion, with the lack of kind of star talent you have in college men's basketball right now, I think the women's college basketball game is really pushed with the Caitlin Clarks and the, all the with the Juju Watkins and how good UConn with Paige Breckers come up. What do you think about how the ladies kind of come up with their star profile, and have you been following it very much?
I will say this: women's sports in America are on track for a $1 billion year in revenue. It's never happened before. If you want to buy a 30-second spot during the women's national championship game, it's going to cost you $500,000. Now that's only, that's $500,000 less than you would pay for the men, but it was $100,000 last year. Now it's $500,000. That is an incredible surge, but the interest is validated, brother. And it's not just the Caitlin Clarks. It's not just the Angel Reese's, man. You got so many different side stories. You got the ultimate villain in Kim Mulkey and her outfit du jour. You got Dawn Staley, who is just like going about business in this robotic way down in South Carolina, almost like the Terminator, the way she's building programs, and nobody expected that team to do anything this year. The women's game, man, I'm bullish on it. I'm buying stock. And I want to say this. If they can figure out a way to bottle this juju and to take these personalities and deposit them onto the softball field, we are going to have a lot to talk about, because I will die on a hill for 2 things: government cheese and women's college softball.
And you've got college volleyball. college volleyball is really kind of getting a lot of traction. Women's college volleyball also.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they can bottle those three things, I think you're 100% right, and get those personalities to come out and let these ladies feel that they can have their personalities come out. I agree with you 100%. I think they got something real special.
Here's what we have to worry about, though. And as we have all this stuff going on with conference realignment, and this team going there and this team going there, and this school suing this conference and that conference, what's going to eventually happen, and we're going to go down a deep rabbit hole, so I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. You're going to see programs cutting, or schools cutting athletic programs, which means they're going to have to cut on both sides of the coin, the men's and the women. And I think it's going to be really to the detriment of women's sports because they're just now getting some momentum. And a lot of it has to do also with just being able to stream everything. Instead of watching the ESPN Women's Game of the Week, I can sit back and pull up Cal Berkeley playing basketball on a Wednesday night or anything we want because we're exposed to the product more now. I just hope they can keep everything running, man, as the dominoes keep falling over in college sports.
I will tell you this. As a not fan of women's sports for a long, long time, I've always enjoyed women's tennis, and I've always enjoyed women's golf. And sometimes I might rather watch women's golf than the men's game. Same thing for tennis. All right, I followed both of those women's sports for a long time. Never been into women's basketball. And I have, bless her heart, I have a daughter that plays college basketball, and it's all I can do to stomach watching her games. Clearly, it's not on this level, but the games have become more exciting to me. However, I would still rather watch a women's college softball or volleyball game than men's soccer at any level, at any time. Hold a gun to my head. I'm still not watching it. I'm sorry. And I had to mix in soccer hate in our NCAA tournament talk. I just had to do it because I don't get it. But so we heard what your brackets tell you, Scott. What does your heart tell you about the women's champion and the men's champion?
I don't see anybody beating South Carolina because they don't have that Caitlin Clark player, but they've got that team is built to win, and they respond to their coach better than any other team in America. They don't play out of fear like they do at LSU. You know, when you got Psycho Jane on the sideline with all her outfits, they don't play out of fear like they do up at UConn, where he gives all his players daddy issues. They play because they want to win. They know she's a winner, and they listen to what she has to say. And take the politics out of it, man. Yeah. Dawn Staley can coach, dude. Dawn Staley can coach. And you look at what she's done throughout her career. All she's done is win, and they get better when there's more at stake.
Probably the most impressive.
South Carolina stock.
Probably most impressive thing, really, she's doing with 5 new starters this year from last year, and a great team that she had last year. And she has 5 new starters, and they haven't lost a game this year. So that's the most impressive thing with Dawn Staley to me.
Well, and she's smart. I mean, she knows how to use the portal. She's got a gap she's got to fill. She goes out, she uses the portal. She knows how to build a team so that it's not heavy. Like, they had Aaliyah Boston the last couple of years, but the further her career went, the more they actually got away from her, and she started spreading the wealth and developing other positions. I'm singing her praises right now because she is the next name that we are going to think of when we think of women's college basketball. It used to be Pat Summitt, then it was Gino. It's Dawn Staley now, and it's worth it.
Is it just because she's so relatable with the players? I mean, obviously her knowledge of the game, is first and foremost, but just because she's so relatable with the players?
Well, she treats them like adults. She treats them like women. She doesn't treat them like servants. She doesn't treat them like employees. She doesn't treat them like children. She's just straight up with everything she does. You know what you're getting with her. It's almost more like a professional type relationship when you think about it. The way you get coached when you're in the NBA, or the way you get coached when you're in the NFL. And maybe they respond to that because, hey, it makes them more relaxed at the college level. But B, they're like, oh, man, she's going to prepare me to go to the pros. I'm already getting the experience now.
And you know what? By the way, I was today years old. Well, last week years old when I found out Dawn Staley and Deuce Staley aren't related.
Why would you assume that?
Because they look like twins. They look just alike.
They look nothing alike.
I've always thought they looked alike, and I just assumed, I had to go read an article that they're not even from the same part of the country, and I'm like, oh,
how do I turn him off? I just want to look at John.
You see what I got to deal with. You see what I got to deal with 5 days a week, buddy. This is what I deal with 5 days a week.
That's a choice, man. You don't have to do anything.
How's that?
Oh, there we go.
That
Y'all
is
just do the show from now on. How's that?
I noticed that the boxing, and I don't know if the listeners out there are aware, there's also a video component to this, but the box I'm in, much smaller than the box that was necessary for your head.
That's because you're on the phone and you have a little head.
I got on my hair, though.
I used to, but anyway. All right, anything else on the college football side you need to get off your chest here while we got you?
Oh, I got a lot on my mind with regards to that, but I'm sure you've got a commercial break or a pee break or something.
Probably one of those things. I'm out of coffee.
That old prostate, you gotta go, check things.
Yeah, how do they do that nowadays? Like, it's not a finger anymore, right? I hear it's just a blood test.
Keep it classy, man. Keep it classy.
I hear it's just a blood test now. I might have to go. I'll be 53 in 4 days and 5 days, and I'll still never had that checked.
We'll have to ask Dr. Chris next segment to ask him that question. It's probably a more suited question for him than Scott.
I just kind of wanted to know if Scott had ever had that done.
Those files are sealed.
We'll figure it out. All right, Scott, appreciate you coming on, buddy. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, bud.
There he goes, Scott Hamilton of the Scott Hamilton Show at fanstreamsports.com. You can also hear him on Sirius XM. I would have said, tell everybody about your social, not security number, but media. But he didn't really have any. Like, he's not on Facebook. I don't think he's on X or Threads. I know he's on the Instagram, and that's it. And I'm like, who's on Instagram? I know you do a lot of Instagram. I barely do any of that.
I could talk to that dude with his energy about sports all day long. Just sit there and drink beer and talk to him about sports because he is awesome. I learn more talking to him about. I mean, he's just not really one specific sport. He knows so much about everything. Man, it's awesome to have him on.
And I can't keep up with what he does over for Sirius XM because for a while he was running their NASCAR channel.
Yeah,
of course, being from where he's from, he's a huge NASCAR guy. He was doing college sports stuff for them for a while, then doing his own show for a while over on ESPN. And I didn't even bother asking.
He's in demand, man. He's if you sit down there and talk to him for 15 minutes, boy, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a lot of fun, and you're going to be ready to run a marathon. I promise you, because he is full of energy.
Yeah, your head's going to be spinning there for a while too. Trying to connect with Chris Lugo. Did not have him on yet. Sometimes he gets tied up with patients and stuff over there at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Don't have his phone number as JP did not give it to me, but I sent him an email. So hopefully he'll see that and then let me know if he's coming on or not. In the meantime, we're late for break. Let's go and take because JP's got 1,000 breaks on his 2-hour show. By the way, the Colby Sapp and IndCARTim show Mondays and Wednesdays on FanStream Sports. We only have 2 breaks over a 2-hour show. But I know JP's more important and has all the sponsors, so he's got to fit them all in. Look, we have 2 screens, Johnny, of sponsors here that we have to roll through because of all the sponsors. There's Chris. All right, let's go and take our quick break here. Then we'll come back on the other side with Chris Lugo of Bay Area Modern Medical Center. We'll be back after this.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group and my man, Scott Jeeves. If you're going to hire an attorney, do you want some guy looking for a quick settlement and a quick buck, or do you want an attorney with some chops? Scott is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator. Been practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. He is a peer-reviewed AV preeminent-rated civil trial lawyer. They just don't hand out those classifications. He's been the lead class action counsel on many complex consumer protection cases and has handled hundreds of serious personal injury cases. He's dedicated his career to protecting injured victims and is committed to vigorously representing you. We're local, we're trusted, and we get results. Personal injury and personal attention. Call for a free case evaluation. That's 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. The Jeeves Law Group. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA 2-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom. You want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group, because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808. Everyone knows Italiano Insurance is your go-to for home insurance, but they also have an amazing team that focuses on business insurance. Yes, your business is most likely your biggest asset, so make sure you have the right coverage at the most competitive price. And if you started a side hustle recently, don't forget you need business insurance, because if you get sued in this over-litigious society we live in, you could lose all your personal wealth. So get that business insurance. And for the best customer service, always choose Italiano. My representative, Charity, is amazing. I called her late on a Friday because my insurance was going to lapse. She stayed late until the job was done. You just don't find that anymore. Give them a call, 813-877-7799. That's 813-877-7799. Italiano Insurance.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Welcome back to the JP Peterson Show right here on FanStreamSports.com and on 102.5 HD2 The Strike. Subbing today for JP, who is on the slopes probably by now in Brecker. He's probably on a plane still. I don't know. Headed to Colorado. You'll have Peter Blake tomorrow as your host here on the JP Peterson Show. 10 to noon Eastern time on FanStream Sports, on the YouTube channel, on the app, on all the places where you can find the JP Peterson Show. Johnny's here along with me, PGA Pro and PGA of America member Johnny Gerber. We're talking some golf a little bit earlier, but now, because oddly enough, the timing and the segue was perfect, because as we bring in Chris Lugo from Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Chris, we had, oddly enough, during NCAA tournament bracket talk last segment, we had the issue of prostate health come up. If you can imagine that. So and then the question, of course, for me, because I'm the one that derails all the shows I'm on, the question came up, how do they check for the prostate? Because I've heard like they don't do that anymore. I've heard it's just through a blood test, or is it different stuff?
No, that's wrong.
They still do the finger?
So give me backstory real quick, because I missed that on prostate health with NCAA for the tournament.
We were just talking. I don't even remember how we segued through that. I'm sure it was just me somehow, but because I was talking about turning 53. I'll be 53 in 4 days. If we still have you, Chris. Your picture's gone. Do we have audio still? No, we're losing Chris.
That talk must have made him feel uncomfortable, buddy.
Yeah, he just bailed right out. He's probably never doing. He's pulling a sponsorship. He's never doing the JP Peterson Show again. I told you, look, it took us until the last segment to lose a sponsor for him. That's pretty good for us.
That's pretty good.
Chris,
pretty good.
If you can hear us, just back out and then bring yourself back in. And usually that works all of that for you. But prostate health. So apparently, from what Chris was about to say, they don't just do a blood test for prostate checks, I guess, is they still utilize the old-fashioned probe. Have you ever had a prostate check, Johnny?
I have not.
You're my age. Aren't you supposed to be doing that at like
excuse me, I'm not your age. Back up on me.
We're the same age right now for 5 more days. We're the same age.
Well, we're not. Well, no, you're always going to be ahead of me. Just, you just might be 53 in 4 months. You're always going to be ahead of me.
No, it's just the number. Age is a number. It's 52. We're both 52 until I turn 37 in 5 days.
Mm-hmm. Again,
yeah, for the 22nd time. See, I quit celebrating birthdays when I turned 25.
You did?
I just started celebrating anniversaries of my 25th birthday is how I would call it. So I never did I would never tell people how old I was. I would just say, well, you know what? Next year or in April, I'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my 25th birthday. Right?
I promise you, they always guess older when they look at you.
Oh, there's no question. I'm old.
We got him back.
We got you back, Chris.
It would help if I plugged in the computer, wouldn't it? Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's all right. I was telling everybody, look, it took until the last segment of me hosting JP's show, but I finally cost him a sponsor. He just backed right out of it.
All right, so back to prostate health. No, so PSA, prosthetic specific antigen. That's the blood work for the prostate you're referring to. That's been around for years. But we also have to do the old finger wave. They go together like peas and carrots, as we'd say. Having a PSA elevated means a lot of different things.
Okay.
Really and truly, if you want to get down to brass tacks, PSA really should be age dependent. Meaning if a 45-year-old guy comes in to see me, his PSA should be below 1.5. 55, 2.5. 65, 3.5. And then we'll let you float up to 4 after that. But if a 45-year-old guy comes in and he's 1.8, that's too high for a 45-year-old guy.
So in layman's terms, what does that indicate?
So that can mean a lot of different things. That means you could have crazy sex the night before, that you could have had some anal manipulation. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
That means that you could have prostatitis, infection of the prostate, right? You can have BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy, enlarged prostate. It could be a lab error, for God's sake. So there's a lot of different things that an elevated PSA could be. So that's why we do the old finger wave, because if I got to get an elevated PSA, hey, Chris, I have urgency and frequency. I feel that prostate and it's mushy and boggy like the palm of your thumb.
Right.
That could be prostatitis. If he's got a nodule on there like your knuckle, that could be prostate cancer. So a normal prostate should be kind of like rubbery feeling. And then I expect you, like you two guys, are going to have large prostates. You're old like I am. So, and large prostates are normal as long as they're smooth. Now, when you're feeling the prostate, I'm only really getting the back quarter of your prostate. There's a lot more to the prostate than just what I'm feeling on the backside. So that's why we've implemented doing MRIs of the prostate, so we can see the whole entire gland.
I'm not going to lie, I'm sort of puckering here.
What was that?
Just hearing the conversation. I'm sort of puckering up here, just listening to the conversation.
Damn, I got small fingers. That's JP. He knows. But I think it was in Obama's administration. They had a panel comprised of pediatrician, obstetrician, psychiatrist, and I think 2 family medicine, or 1 internal medicine, 1 family medicine physicians on this board. And they determined 2012 that we didn't need to do PSAs anymore. They weren't effective.
Weird. Okay. What was the reason
and
behind
in 2014, we had a spike in prostate cancer because guys weren't getting PSAs done and guys weren't getting the old finger wave done. So
gotcha.
It does hold a purpose. It's not perfect by any means. That's why you got to use your brain and figure out what's the story with PSA.
Hey, Chris, this big whole craze of this, forgive me if I say it wrong, similitide or whatever, that it's coming out. You see all these commercials, this big craze that initially it was used for diabetes, but you're seeing a lot of people use this now for weight loss. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the risks there when you try to use a medicine that particularly is meant for one thing, and then people are taking it for another reason? Is there a big high risk when it comes to that, and a little bit more information of all this craze of this similitide or similitude, whatever they say. Forgive me if I say it wrong.
Yeah, so I love this class of medication, and actually it's a normal peptide that all of us make. It's called GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide-1. Inside your intestines, you have a bacteria called Akkermansia, which helps actually make your body make its own GLP-1. So it actually helps us. They were able to isolate this thing and realize that glucagon-like peptide-1, GLP-1, which is semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, and tirzepatide, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, they gave an artificial version, which now will lower your hemoglobin A1C. So that's how they first isolated this thing and say, hey, let's get this indicated for diabetes. They went down that rabbit hole. During the end stage of those studies, though, they noticed that these patients in the study were actually losing weight, quote unquote. Not fat loss per se, weight loss. So body composition was changing. My hypothesis is that they were actually losing a lot of lean muscle mass. So I love this class of drugs. They work very well. But if your providers is giving it to you, not teaching you how to use the drug properly, you're going to lose your lean muscle mass, which is going then to accelerate osteopenia. Osteoporosis is going to make you more sick 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So I really push for protein consumption. And it's difficult to do when you're not hungry. You've got to force feed yourself. So, John, to get your question is, so once they got the indication for diabetes, they said, hey, well, this is a weight loss drug too. Let's go ahead and get that indication. So they did another study proving that it helps with weight loss. Semaglutide is the same exact molecule that's in Ozempic, same one that's in Wegovy. It's a Ford and it's a Lincoln, it's a GMC, it's a Chevy. Different labels. That's all they are. Gotcha. So they had to change the name in order to get the different indications so they can get reimbursed.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
But I love the drugs, but you've got to use them properly. You've got to strength train, and you've got to eat protein, 1 gram per desired weight in pounds, which is a lot.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like a lot. Chris, what's like currently right now this week or in the month of March, what was the biggest complaint you were getting from some of your clients here as far as literally anything? Like what's the number one reason for visits with you?
Recently, I've had a handful of stomach bugs going around, quote unquote. Can't make any rhyme or reason. It could be rotavirus, norovirus. It could be all sorts of stuff going on. Right. That's been the biggest one. I've had roughly about a half a dozen to maybe 10 patients with complaints of GI symptoms here in the past 4 weeks. Can't explain that one at all. I've had a few patients complain of fatigue recently. I just don't know if it's more sleep related. We talk about sleep all the time. It is really the 800-pound gorilla that no one wants to address. I've got 2 books that sit on my desk, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and then Jocko Willink, one of the SEAL Team 3 guys who I love. Jocko's, thought philosophy, just get it done. Right. But Jocko doesn't sleep very much. He's accelerating his demise of his neurological disorder, which is going to be dementia as he gets older, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And then the last thing I had for you, and as I've had this on my list to discuss with you, and I've always failed to bring it up. We talked about supplements and stuff a couple of weeks ago with you, and I've still have all of those written down. So I dealt with asthma as a child pretty bad. As a young adult, it sort of went away. I didn't have a lot of issues with it, but now it seems like in the last 5 years, I'm dealing with asthma like pretty seriously, like probably more than I can remember. And it's really been since I moved in the house here. So I think there's something in the house that I'm dealing with. I'm not sure. I haven't narrowed it down. I've been here 3 years now. But is there something other than me going to the doctor and getting a prescription for albuterol and the daily disc thing that can help with the lung health and to counter some of that?
100%. So we're in Florida. We're usually in 100% humidity 80% of the time, right? So next couple of days we'll have one of those rare ones where we'll drop their humidity down. But for the most part, there's a lot of homes that are in the state of Florida that actually have mold in them. Mm-hmm. So you grew out of asthma as a child, but now you might be in a home that's a little bit older. It might have mold in that AC unit. It might have mold in those walls, unbeknownst to you, which now is affecting your breathing. So you can actually do testing to find out if you do have mold in your body. It's called an OAT, organic acid test, and it actually is a urine test. It kind of freaks people out, but it's mold can get in your gut, can cause you bad gut disease, can cause you bad gut issues. Dysbiosis is our fancy word, but it can get in your lungs too. And once it's in your bloodstream, that they can cause more issues, and breathing is one big thing. So putting the Band-Aid of the albuterol treatments, but you're not finding out what's the source. So Tim, there's got to be something that's exacerbating your breathing right now. And living in a home in Florida, I'm going to say you got to get tested for mold, either you or bring somebody in to look at the house.
Gotcha. And I mean, the house isn't that old. I think it was built in 05. Well, I guess it is old. Being built in 05, that's old enough.
Yeah, was that Chinese drywall time? What was that?
You know, all the asbestos probably in the I don't know. They outlawed that long before.
They finally outlawed that, right?
Yeah, finally. So anyway, well, yeah, that was one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about was the asthma issue. And then Johnny had that question about whatever it was I still can't pronounce.
Semaglutide. Yeah, great drugs, but you've got to use them properly. They all have side effects.
Very good. All right, Chris, appreciate you popping on here with us as always on the JP Peterson Show. And
John, JP,
hopefully JP doesn't come back
a lot,
to the
Chris.
cast or something, but we'll see.
All right, take care, guys.
Very good.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Chris Lugo from the Bay Area Modern Medical Center there in Tampa. Make sure you give him a call for just literally anything. The guy's a wealth of information and a wealth of knowledge. I wish I was closer to him or had someone like him closer to me here in Dallas, because that would certainly supplement my, my normal medical care with what he does. And he's a phone call away from me, but you guys out in Tampa certainly can benefit greatly from what he does. Johnny, here in the final 5 minutes or so, you want to get into a little bit of Masters talk? Tell us a little bit about what's going on, who's going to be there, maybe who you're, of course, Scotty Scheffler is going to be the number one as far as odds go. But anybody, don't give away your picks or anything yet, because that'll come tomorrow for everybody. But anybody maybe to watch out for that you can think of.
Yeah, it's it's going to be an interesting Masters, obviously, with, it's next week, but we're going to be focused a little bit more on San Antonio this week. We'll dive into it next Monday, a little bit more of the Masters on the analyzing side, made up
just making up words over there. That's my job.
Yeah. I'm good at that. But it's going to be compelling. You're going to see for the first time all year, the big guys, the best field, not the biggest field, but probably the best field in golf. It used to be the Players Championship for years and years. Now with the, getting the top 50 best players in the world, the guys coming over from Live, international players, I certainly feel that's going to be the best field in golf when it comes to players. Let's see some things. Let's see how Dustin Johnson's playing. You haven't really heard a lot about Dustin Johnson. Masters winner. Is he going to be motivated to play? I mean, he hasn't been real motivated to play, Live, because you haven't heard much about him. I mean, what about Brooks? Brooks coming into the Masters, playing, coming off an injury. Can Jon Rahm defend? Things like that. I think there's so many great storylines, coming into this year's Masters that we haven't had before, just because of a lot of the guys we haven't seen a lot.
Yeah,
that's went over to Live. So it's certainly going to be compelling, and we're going to see if Scotty Scheffler can continue his dominance playing against I don't want to say better field, but really honestly, the top 50 best players in the world. And on top of that, let's see how Rory's doing. Rory's not going to come into the Masters for the first time in years as the favorite. He isn't. And, Scotty Scheffler is certainly going to be the favorite coming into the Masters this year. So let's see how Rory kind of handles that. He's been playing some pretty solid golf. He's kind of faltered a little bit. We'll see how he plays a little bit this week in San Antonio. Is he going to be motivated to play in San Antonio? Is he going to hit some shots and get ready for the Masters? Rory's deal is if he's not really in contention, he kind of seems to bail it in a little bit and work on next week, especially with the Masters. So, like I said, a lot of great storylines, man, coming in. Let's see. What about Tiger? How is Tiger going to play? He's on the field to play. I think he certainly is going to play. He played a couple of days ago out there with JT and Fred Ridley. So, we'll see. Like I said, this is the most excited I've been for a Masters in years, just through all the storylines and seeing all these guys, top 50 players in the world, playing again against each other.
Yeah, and my thoughts on Live Golf are well documented over on From the Rough, and we're not shy about our thoughts and what we think about those guys that go over there and that whole movement, regardless of what merger rumors we hear that are impending. But it will be interesting, and I'm not going to say fun, but it will be interesting at least to see those guys that have gone over there that we haven't seen on TV in a while, because I don't know where to find them. They're on CW. Who has CW? I don't think I even have CW. I have YouTube TV. I couldn't tell you where to find CW. But to see all the guys back together, I was a big Brooks fan, of course, big Bryson fan. Now that John Rahm's over there, Joaquin Neiman, all these guys that you never get to see anymore. And now you're going to see these guys with your guys, our guys that we see on the PGA Tour every week. Should be interesting to watch. And again, it's the Masters. It is a tradition unlike any other. I just made that up.
No matter what, and this is the great thing about Augusta and the Masters is, the golf course in the tournament is the star of the show. There's no one outshining the tournament itself, and there's no one outshining the golf course. And that's the greatest thing, about the Masters. It's the only major that you play the same golf course. And, you might play the same golf course and property, but it plays completely different every single year, how they move things around. So, like I said, the storylines are going to be great, but it's never going to outshine the golf course in the tournament itself.
Very good. So that is in 2 weeks. We've got the Valero Texas Open this week. We will talk about it on From the Rough tomorrow. Also, the Colby Sapp and IndCarTim show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern on FanStreamSports.com and the FanStream Sports app. That is us for today. We hope we didn't beat you down too much with Johnny and Tim talk. Peter will be with you tomorrow for the JP Peterson Show. I will see you again on Friday. Until then, boys and girls, we'll see you. Have a good one.